Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to another episode of the X Factor Sports Podcast. This is your host, Jay Mondaine. You are in season 4, episode 6. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. We are on YouTube and Rumble every Wednesday night. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe on all the social media platforms as well. And if you want to just check out the audio, you can do that. You can check the audio out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the places that you can listen to podcasts. You can check us out there. That's where we live. Every Wednesday, you get a hot episode. So we got a great show for y'all tonight. Basketball is back. We're super excited for it. Hope y'all are too. So we got heavy basketball in this episode. And then we got, obviously, we're going to get into some of the NFL Week 11 and then college football playoff. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into that quick news. All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk about what happened yesterday, last night, the Champions Classic, that Duke, KU, Michigan State, Kentucky tournament that they have every year, or Classic. This year, last night, Duke played Kentucky, KU played Michigan State. In the first game, you had KU and Michigan State lost, and Hunter Dickerson had a big game. Again, they got a lot of seniors, got a lot of experience on that team. I think Hunter Dickerson's probably played over 100 college basketball games. I think the young point guard, I think he's been in college since I left college. He's been there forever, but they had a good game. Kind of sloppy, a lot of turnovers, bad shooting, but that's what you get with college basketball, and B, it's early in the college basketball season, so it's going to be even uglier than it would be in February or March. But the takeaways I got from that game is that KU just looked bigger and stronger than Michigan State, which you don't say a lot about any Tom Izzo teams from the past. They usually dominate people with physicality, rebounding. I think KU beat them on the board, so that was impressive to see. KU's had some big games. They beat Carolina. They beat Michigan State now, so they've had some big games. They play Duke later this month, so they'll be battle tested. In the next game, in the nightcap, it was Duke and Kentucky. Duke came out and looked good in the first half. I think they had like a 9-point lead going into halftime. Kentucky came back, even though these players have never played together. I mean, these are the first 3 games that they played together. A bunch of transfers came in with the new coach. You can just see Duke's youth at the end of that game, last 4 minutes, just a lot of mistakes, forced shots. I don't know why John Shire was going through Cooper Flagg when you got Tyrese Proctor. He's played point guard for you for a couple years. He's off the ball now. He's a junior. He's played in big games. He's played in this championship classic for the 3rd time now. Like, I don't understand why they were forcing the ball to Cooper Flagg. I know he was hot, but there's different ways you can get a guy the ball. Like, if the plays can go through him, but he doesn't have to bring up the ball and initiate one-on-one and let the defense key in on him. I think Tyrese Proctor should have had the ball in his hands to make the right decisions, get Cooper Flagg the ball maybe, or he can get a look for somebody else. So I didn't like that. And we had a couple people to get hurt later in the game, but still, nonetheless, Duke kind of lost that game, I think, with the inexperience. But they'll grow from it. These games early in the year don't mean anything for rankings. They don't mean anything for in March. I mean, it's kind of a strength of schedule thing if you win it, I guess. But you really don't lose anything in it. I just like to see Duke win basketball games, so they'll learn. They'll grow up from that, and hopefully later on in conference play, they go through the veteran leadership. So college football, even last night, in between the 2 games, they did another college football playoff ranking. And what I took from that is it's going to be pretty crazy that we may actually have a college football playoff where we get to see Army in the college football playoff and Indiana, but we might not see Georgia and LSU. So that's kind of crazy. Just from where it looks now as it's projected, Army and Indiana are both undefeated, 10-0, 9-0, I think. Army is outside of the college football playoff right now. They're not getting enough love. Strength of schedule is kind of weak. But if they win out, you got to respect it. So they got that going for them. Also, what I've seen in the college football playoff ranking this week is Colorado. They control their own destiny. All right. If they can win out, they get a chance to get to a Big 12 championship game and have a chance to win it. I mean, they run into BYU. We'll see what happens with that. So shout out to Dion for turning that whole thing around if they could keep it going. He's got 2 potential Heisman Trophy candidates, winners, finalists on his team. So that's dope. Miami, even though Miami stayed in the top 4, they're a classic case of it's not who you lose to, it's when you lose. And they picked a bad time to lose to Georgia Tech. Just laid an egg. I don't know what it was. I don't know if Cam Ward, what Georgia Tech had in store for them, but they didn't look good and they lost that game. So they got to be careful because they're in a weak conference and they got Clemson right behind them. They can't afford to lose more games. So I wouldn't have guessed that they would have lost that game. I would have guessed Miami may have lost to Clemson or lost in an ACC title game and still had a chance. It'll be hard for them to get in the college football playoff with 2 losses, especially one at Georgia Tech. So tough one. Also, 4 out of the top 5 teams are from the Big Ten. Shout out to the Big Ten football, but those are the only teams that's ranked. So I would say the Big Ten is top heavy, you think, with Indiana, Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, and then Texas rounds out the top 5. But crazy to see 4 Big Ten teams in the top 5 and Indiana being one of them undefeated. But very, very top heavy. Then what else we got? NFL. All right, so what did we learn from week 10 in NFL? The Chiefs have a leprechaun running around in their locker room, a 4-leaf clover somewhere. All of them eat Lucky Charms. They got a rabbit's foot. Like something's going on in that locker room. They keep finding ways to win these games. I understand like being able to execute and being able to, play situational football, but it's getting to the point now. It's like Denver had them on the ropes and fans are just like, man, they're going to block this kick. Let's block this kick. Hope they get a block. And then they get the block. It's crazy. It's some juju going on in there. I mean, maybe history is going to happen. It's going in the right direction, 9-0. But it sets up a great football game this Sunday against the Bills in Buffalo. I think Buffalo understands how important this game is to try to have an opportunity to get in first place. If it gets to a head-to-head tiebreaker scenario, I think Buffalo wants this game real bad. They're going to, and like everybody else this season, they've been giving the Chiefs their best games, giving them their best shot. That's why the Chiefs, all these games have been so close. So that'll make for that. Also, are the Steelers for real? I mean, they switched to Russell Wilson, a ballsy move by Mike Tomlin. It's worked so far coming out the bye. They look good, got a big win on Washington, and they get the Ravens this weekend for first place in the North. If you'd have told me that with Russ and Justin Fields coming over to Pittsburgh, that around Thanksgiving they'd be fighting for first place to be 8-2, that's crazy. So happy for them. Shout out to Philly to Pittsburgh and to Russ. Russ is looking like the Seattle Russ. I mean, he did not have a bad last season with Denver. It's just that it ended ugly. But if you look at the numbers, they weren't that bad. And now he's just kind of capitalizing on the opportunity and continuing with the momentum. He looked like the old Russ these last few games. The deep ball's back. So looks like they're doing good. Also, the Eagles looks like one of the best teams in the NFC, the way they've been playing lately. I don't understand why Nick Sirianni was on the hot seat to begin with. They've been in the playoffs every year he's been there, went to a Super Bowl, and now they 7-2, I think. So won 5-6 straight games. Like, I don't know what else you want from the Eagles. They're winning the games they're supposed to win. They destroyed the Cowboys. So they look like one of the best teams in the NFC. And then Detroit, like not even 5 interceptions could stop Detroit from winning a football game. Just a total team effort. Jared Goff didn't have it on Sunday night against the Texans, but it didn't matter because the defense showed up and showed out. Everybody said they would have been a liability, and they showed up. And Zadarius Smith ain't even playing yet. He didn't even play in that game, and they just picked him up. Huge pickup. He's not Aiden Hutchinson, but he's good, and he's good enough to close out a game in the fourth quarter when you need a big play on third down or you need a big play late in the game. Zadarius Smith can get it for you. So that's encouraging to see the Lions defense step up when Jared Goff literally tries to throw the game away. So that's what we learned pretty much from last week and up to the show tonight. So on all the things y'all done heard me talk about, let me know what you think. Like I said, you can always catch the X Factor Sports Podcast on Wednesdays on YouTube and Rumble. And you can listen to all the audio on all of the platforms that we have. iHeartRadio, Spotify, you know all the places you can listen to podcasts. Go ahead and check out the X Factor Sports Podcast there. All right. So let's get into it. All right. Now that we got the quick news out the way, we got the question for y'all. So now that we got the basketball season cracking, I want to know what y'all think about all these players getting hurt all the time. Joel Embiid, Kawhi, we talked about Paul George. Chet Holmgren now is hurt. Say he fractured his hip after he blocked somebody's shot. We got a bunch of soft tissue injuries, hamstrings, all these things happening and has been happening in recent history in the NBA. So you guys let me know what you think. Why are the NBA players getting hurt so much, all the time, so often? All right. You guys let me know what you think about it. So I have a theory for it, but I'm gonna give y'all some numbers first. In 2023, injuries alone led to over 2,900 missed games throughout the season. Obviously, this is all the 400 plus players, 82 games. 2,900 games missed in 2023 just due to injury. Not from somebody being sick, suspended, none of that, right? Another report indicated NBA All-Stars, so this is the top players in the league, missed about 370 games of a possible 1,900 some games, right? That's almost 20% of the games being played in that season were missed by the guys we turn the TV on, the guys we buy tickets to watch because of injuries or just missed games altogether, load management, whatever the case may be. So what's the solution? Those are big numbers to look into in terms of players being injured. So what's the solution? And I'm going to sound like the old fart, get off my lawn, yelling at the clouds when I'm not going to, the back in my day guy, right? Just for a minute. But think about the numbers, though, of these players not playing like they used to play. So in last season, only 9 players played 82 games, played all 82. 9 players. Just 10 years ago, in 2013, 2014, it was 5 times that many players playing all 82 games. Just 10 years ago, right? And then over a quarter of the league played in at least 75 games 20 years ago. So back when I was growing up, over a quarter of the league played 75 plus games, right? So why are you saying this, Jay? What does this mean? What has happened in the last 20, 30 years that these players don't play anymore? Why are they getting hurt so much? Is it because of no practice, right? We talk about, eliminating the back-to-backs, not having so many back-to-backs. So what are they doing on these days where there is no back-to-back? Are they practicing? Because for some reason we've gotten in our mind that if you practice, there's more of an opportunity to get hurt. As opposed to looking at the glass half full, practice is actually what kind of calluses your body to endure playing basketball. All the times that I've ever been hurt or had any soft tissue injuries, pulled hamstring, quad, whatever, calf, is because I wasn't playing basketball. Anytime I was playing like all the time, I did not get hurt. I didn't miss any games. I played basketball. I played like real basketball with officials, all that, from 5th grade to I was 34 years old. And I never missed a game. The times I missed games or the times I got hurt was when I played in these rec leagues later on, but there was such a gap in between me playing. 2-3 months here, a month there, and trying to stretch and get warmed up. When I consistently practiced every day and worked and played and lift weights and worked out, I was never hurt. My body could endure punishment to play basketball games. Nowadays, these guys don't practice. You got superstars saying, I don't want to play in back-to-backs, but they're getting hurt all the time, as opposed to these games being spread out. So if you don't have the back-to-backs, let's do 3 days a week you play. You still, if it's 3 days a week, that's still 6 months of basketball if they get 3 games a week, right? So you can eliminate the back-to-backs, but then there's time in there to travel, get to a city, actually practice, get your body ready to play basketball so you can endure 82 games. That's what I think. So you guys let me know what you think about that, because again, if we go back in the day, more players were playing 82 games. And we got more technology and we know more about the human body now than we ever have. And less players are playing 82 games. So why is that? And the only thing I can correlate it to is we played more basketball. We practiced harder. Our bodies were conditioned to play basketball, right? So that's just what I think. As a basketball player, I went through it. And as somebody that played in every single game from age 10 to 34, 35 years old, I think I got a pretty good idea of how I stayed in shape and how I stayed durable to play in games. So, and then just a little nugget to give y'all here, all right? Back when Jordan played 15 seasons. If you want to count, the 17 games he played his second year after a broke foot, or 13 games, or the 17 games in 95 when he came back, sure, we can count those as seasons. So in the 15 seasons he played all 82 games 9 times. And he played 81 games for a season, and he played 80 games in another season. So after he came back from that broken foot after his second year, so from 86 to 1993, Jordan missed 7 regular season games. 7 in 7 years, right? We're 10, 11 games into the season, and Kawhi Leonard ain't played yet. Right? So to me, I just grew up watching a brand of basketball where guys played. I'm sure they were nicked up. I'm sure they had rolled ankles and all that, but they played the game. Like it wasn't, it was back when they took pride in playing 82 games. It was like a badge of honor to play 82. And now they have to kind of pacify these guys and put in rules like, all right, if y'all don't want to play, y'all can't win no awards. So if you're under 65 games, you're not eligible for any awards. The fact that they have to incentivize that to get guys to play seems crazy to me. So I grew up in an era where the guys played every night. Dennis Rodman played 82 games for 5 straight years. And you want to talk about somebody that played hard. This dude was with the Pistons. If he wasn't getting beat up, he was beating somebody up doing all the dirty work for the Pistons in the 80s. He went 5 straight years and played 82 games. And he won 2 Defensive Player of the Years in that span. So there's a reward to playing basketball, right? And he practiced too. So I just feel like they were mentally tougher and they endured their bodies to prepare to play 82 games in worse conditions, mind you, back in those days. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So you notice I'm going back further and further with these players. Kareem played in the 70s and the 80s, right? 20 years. He averaged playing 78 games a year for 20 years, right? So why is that? Why is it that these guys were able to play all the time in this generation? We have 9 guys last season play 82 games. So just food for thought. You guys let me know what you think. If you know why or what you think it is that have these players not playing anymore or why they're getting hurt or what the deal is with that. You guys be the judge. Let me know what you think. All right. Again, appreciate y'all tuning in to the X Factor Sports Podcast. As always, season 6, episode 4. We're going to keep it moving. I told y'all it's heavy on the basketball side. So we're going to get to it, right? So leaning off of that, we're going to get into the first iteration of the X Factor Sports Podcast Power Rankings. All right. So we're going to go ahead and give those to y'all right here, the top 10. We have the NBA Cup started last night. If y'all didn't watch, some good games. Hawks went in and stole a game from Boston. Klay Thompson made his first visit as a visitor to Golden State. Got a great standing ovation. Real emotional game. I know he wanted to win. It was a fun game to watch. Klay went off, had some, I think he hit 6, 7 threes, but then Steph gave him the night-night. Closed the show as we all thought it would be. Draymond played good. So the three guys you expect to play good did. So it was a good game. But with that, let's get into the first iteration of the X Factor Sports Power Rankings for the NBA. All right, so at number 10, as you can see, I got the Houston Rockets. I told y'all, this is a young team. I'm excited to see them play. I think Ime Udoka is ingraining some leadership, some defense into these guys. Jalen Green is showing some leadership. They're 12th in offensive rating and they're top 10 in defensive rating. So you can see that Ime Udoka is putting his fingerprints on this team with the defensive side. Good young team. I think they can make it to a play-in. I think they can be a play-in team. They look like they're a top 10 team. So I think I got them rightfully placed here in this first iteration of the rankings. At number 9, as you can see, this list is heavy in the Western Conference. East is kind of soft, bottom heavy, top heavy, but not as good as the teams in the West. Traditionally, that's how it's been. So at number 9, I got the Sacramento Kings. Top 10 in offensive rating, even with DeMar DeRozan, a half-court, mid-range guy. He was a good addition, looking good so far, and they're still trying to figure things out with him. And they've won 6 out of their last 8, including beating Phoenix. So things looking up for Sacramento, getting into a groove. At number 8, the Memphis Grizzlies. All right, I know they're happy to have Ja back. I'm happy to see Ja back as well. So 5th in point differential, despite losing to the Bulls and Nets. But Ja Morant is back. And top 10 in offense and defensive rating, 3rd in pace. So they're going up and down the court, even with Zach Edey, who looks like the rookie of the year early on right now, showing some toughness, showing y'all he's not afraid of anybody in this league. He can stand up for himself. But I like that they 3rd in pace, even with the big man running the floor. So that's good to see. Obviously, that's the Ja Morant effect. He likes to get up and down the court. At number 7, Minnesota Timberwolves. If I would have did this ranking last week, they probably wouldn't have been in it. They kind of picking it up right now. Defense not as good as it was last year, but still top 5 in opponents' points per game. And Anthony Edwards is increasing his points per game. He reminds me of what Giannis was when Giannis first figured it out. His numbers in every category, Giannis' numbers got better and better and better every year. And that's where Anthony Edwards is going. I think he averaged like 22 a game last season. He's up to 28 now. And he's shooting 40% from three. He's shooting more threes, but he's shooting them at a higher clip, percentage-wise. So the T-Wolves look good. At number 6, same thing about the T-Wolves. If we would have did this power ranking a week ago, I don't know if the Nuggets would have been in it, but their pace is way up now. Last year, they were one of the last place teams in pace, and now they're 7th. So they're starting to figure out some things too. I think Christian Braun is getting going, got his confidence up, being a starter this year, starting to wake up. 5-game winning streak. The bench might be a concern, but Westbrook is looking good so far. He had a big game the other night. Him and Jokic kind of carried them to a win. They're doing all this without Aaron Gordon too. He's going to be out for a little bit. So if they can keep up this pace and add Aaron Gordon to the mix, they can make something happen. So look out for Denver. At number 5, the Boston Celtics. Yes, because we are on Wednesday. They did play yesterday and let Atlanta get them without Trae Young, without DeAndre Hunter as well. DeAndre Hunter, sorry. So you got to add that to their marks, man. They started out hot, lost some tough games, lost at home to Golden State also, but they're still good. I mean, I still think they're going to be one of the top teams in the NBA. Just some bad losses. No Jaylen Brown for a few games. He's back now. He's been back the last couple. No Kristaps Porzingis yet. When they get Porzingis, that's when they become elite. Because there's no answer for him. He's a mismatch on both ends of the floor. And I think that's when they became elite last year. So when they get KP back, they're good now. They're going to be elite when they get KP. Still 3rd in offensive rating, and Tatum is near the top of the MVP voting. All his numbers are going up. Field goal percentage particularly, I think he shoots 50% from the field, which shows maturity, right? He used to take a lot of bad shots, a lot of forced shots. He's starting to become a more efficient offensive player, and if he gets to that point where he's efficient, like a KD type of efficiency, look out. Because there ain't nothing nobody can do with him now. And once he starts figuring out where his spots are and he gets efficient and he plays both ends, that's when he starts getting into the MVP conversation, because you can't deny him at that point, because now you can start comparing him to the Jokic, to the Kevin Durant's of the league, because of his player efficiency rating will go up. The Giannis's, right? At number 4, Phoenix Suns. This team looks good. All right, I like what I see in Phoenix. I like Mike Budenholzer coaching this team, and they're my pick to win the NBA Cup. Like I told y'all, the NBA Cup started yesterday. If I had to pick a team to win it, I'm going to pick the Phoenix Suns. It's a tournament style, tournament setting, and they got 3 players that can get you 35, 30 plus any given night, right? I know KD, I think, has got some hamstring issues, but he'll be back. But with Book and Beal, they can get you 30 on any given night. And they won an early season classic last weekend against Dallas, if y'all saw that game. So you know that they can win a lot of close games. They got a good record, 9-3, I think they are. But their point differential is low. It's like 2.5 is their point differential. But they're 9-3. So what does that tell us? They can win close games. And if you're in a tournament style setting, like the NBA Cup is, and you know these games will be competitive and close, I think with the big 3 over there, and they're winning close games now, building some confidence that they can win in big moments, I think you got to go with the Phoenix Suns as one of the teams that can win that cup. So that's going to be my team. I got them at number 4 in the power rankings. At number 3, OKC Thunder. Tough loss losing Chet Holmgren. That loss is going to be huge. They get Hardenstein back, but he doesn't give you any type of mismatches offensively. like Chet does. And Chet can run the floor. He can stretch the floor on offense. He can shoot. So that's going to be a tough loss. But as it stands right now, I got them at number 3. They have the best point differential in the league. They're number 1 in net rating and in defensive rating. So you got to give it to them there. At number 2, though, Golden State. I mean, they showed y'all last night what they can do. Offensively, they're top 10 in offense, defensive rating, net rating, and pace. Top 10 in all those categories, right? They got big wins, went into Boston and won, had a big win last night against Dallas. Buddy Hield fits in seamlessly. They're playing good defense. They got one of the best benches in the league, highest scoring bench in the NBA, 3rd in point differential, so they play defense too. So got them at number 2, the way they're playing. They're a surprise to me. That's the surprise team so far in the league outside of who's number 1, Cleveland Cavaliers, undefeated. Say what you want. I think they're just a regular season team, but it's a power ranking. You got to show them love for where they sit right now on November 13th. And they are the number 1 team in the NBA, undefeated. And they're also top 10 in all the same categories that Golden State is top 10 in: offense, defensive rating, net rating, and pace. And they're shooting over 40% from 3 as a team. So not only are they good in offense and defensive rating, they shoot the ball well, they can pace, they can run with anybody, they can score with anybody. They're 1st in points per game. Cleveland Cavaliers. You got to like what Kenny Atkinson's doing over there. I don't know if it's just a shot in the arm because it's a new coach. Kenny Atkinson is respected around the league. He's been with a lot of different teams. He was with Golden State, so he understands pace. He understands moving the ball, getting a lot of threes up. He also was with Brooklyn, and those players liked him too. So he's got a lot of respect from his players. He's got a lot of experience coaching. He's been around championship coaches. So I think that's a good formula to start a season off. They can keep this going. They will be a threat to Boston, so they look good. So that's my top 10 right there. As you can see in the power rankings, let me know what y'all think. Do y'all like it? Do y'all think some teams should be switched up? You know, the Lakers had a chance to be in the top 10. They just went on a little skid, so I think these teams are playing better right now. It's not all about record, but it is about who you beat, what you look like on the offense and defensive end, and these are who I think are the top 10 teams right now. So be sure to like, share, subscribe, and of course, comment always on the X Factor Sports Podcast on all of the platforms, and also listen to us on all the audio to check us out. All right. Now, we got the NBA stuff out the way. So the next thing we're going to get into is the X Factors for Week 11 in the NFL. All right, so we're going to do a weekend review. All right, last week, we're going to see how we did with the Week 10 X Factors. So if we go into last week, the first game we had the Bills and Colts. We said James Cook was the X Factor in that game. I said the Colts give up 150 yards on the ground. They averaged that. They gave up 135 to the Bills. I had James Cook getting 2 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing. He had 1 rushing touchdown. So wasn't quite good. I mean, wasn't quite exact, but 130 yards, 135 yards rushing. And James Cook did get a rushing TD. In the second game, we talked about Broncos and Chiefs in Week 10, and the Broncos defense was the X factor. I said they'd get 4 or 5 sacks. That defense played amazing. You can ask for more from the defense for a football game, and they ended up getting 4 sacks on Mahomes. So shout out to the Broncos defense. So I think we got that one right. That's a good call for the X factor of that game. In the third game, we said Niners and Bucks. In the Niners and Bucks game, what did we have? Brock Purdy, we said was going to be the X factor because he was going up against a team that just had a rough loss against the Chiefs the week before on Monday night, and their defense, deep threats, that defense wasn't going to be able to compete with the 49ers. Sure enough, Brock Purdy had 353 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. So I'd say we got that one right. Brock Purdy being the X factor in that game. That's probably the first game that I can think of that Brock Purdy actually carried the 49ers to a victory. Special teams was a mess. Christian McCaffrey's not 100% yet. Debo's not 100%. Yet and still, Brock Purdy had a great quarterback rating. I think his QB rating was like 119. Threw for over 350 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's a game that you can't say Brock Purdy didn't put the team on his back. And I think we called it as him being the X factor. In the fourth game, the Steelers-Commanders game, we talked about TJ Watt being the X factor. He wasn't very much defense in this game. It was 28-27. Steelers won. I had him for a bunch of solo tackles. He really didn't have very many. They double teamed him pretty good, so didn't get that X factor right. Then in the last game, Lions and Texans. The Lions are 4-0 on the road. Texans are 4-0 at home. Something had to give, and the Lions prevailed, even in spite of Jared Goff trying to throw the game away. Literally, we picked Jahmyr Gibbs as our X factor. We said he'd get 100 yards of total offense, and he had over 100 yards of total offense. Jahmyr Gibbs did, and the Lions won. He didn't get the touchdowns, we said, but he did get the yardage. So I say we did pretty good last week in week 10. So now let's go into week 11. So make sure y'all got y'all notes out. If you got these players in fantasy football, be sure to grab them, all right? Or be sure to make sure they start. So the games we're going to pick, all of the primetime games for week 11. That's what we're picking. So in the first one, tomorrow night, you got a divisional game, NFC East game. We got the Commanders against Philly. I'm going with Devontae Smith in this game as the X factor. Why is that? Washington doesn't have a good secondary, but they did get Marshawn Lattimore from New Orleans, so that was a good pickup. But A.J. Brown playing, Marshawn Lattimore will probably get that assignment, which leaves some opportunities for Devontae Smith. And I think when they get the ball down the field, when they push the ball down the field, Philly's a better team. So I see Devontae Smith getting your number 2 or number 3 cornerback. I think he goes to work on him. That'll free him up because AJ will be double teamed. So I see 6 catches, around 90 yards, and a touchdown for Devontae Smith. In the next game, the Sunday noon game, you got another division rivalry. This one's in the AFC North. Ravens, Steelers. This game is for first place. I'm going with Derrick Henry as the X factor in this game. Let me tell y'all why I'm doing that. All right. So when Lamar Jackson plays against the Ravens, he doesn't have very good games. All right. He has a 68 passer rating in his career against the Ravens. He has more picks than touchdowns. And this is the reason why they brought Derrick Henry to the Ravens. So that's why I got Derrick Henry as my X factor. When they get in these tough divisional games, when it starts getting cold, we get later and later in the year, when we get to playoff games, you can take some of the pressure off of Lamar. He doesn't have to run the ball. He doesn't have to do everything. This is where Derrick Henry is going to go to work. I see Derrick Henry getting over 100 yards rushing, and he's going to have 2 touchdowns. I see a big game for Derrick Henry. I think this is the specific reason why John Harbaugh wanted Derrick Henry, is to play against this Steeler defense. This is how you neutralize a pass rush, with a great running back, and he's going to wear them down. Derrick Henry usually gets all his rushing yards in the second half because teams get tired. And I think they impose their will on the Steelers, and I think Derrick Henry has a big game. So that's my X factor for that one. Now, in the late Sunday game, this may be the game of the week. Chiefs at Bills. Chiefs going into Buffalo playing a Sunday late afternoon game. I'm going with Josh Allen as the X factor in this game. Why? Because he always plays good against the Chiefs. In 4 regular season games against the Chiefs, Josh Allen has a 97.7 passing, almost 1,000 yards passing. and 9 TDs and 2 picks. So this dude balls out. Every time he plays against the Chiefs, win, lose, or draw, Josh Allen has a big game. I don't see anything different. I think he has a big game. I think Amari Cooper comes back for this game. It says he's questionable as of tonight, but I think he'll be ready to play on Sunday. And Josh Allen will have 250 yards, 3 total touchdowns. Whether it's rushing or passing, he's going to mix it up. But I see Josh Allen being the X factor and having another big game against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Then the Sunday night game, Bengals at Chargers. Bengals having to travel, go out west, play in a late Sunday night game. I got the Chargers defense as the X factor. All right. The Bengals O-line is not great. Pro Football Focus has them as 21st in the league, their unit, their offensive line unit, going up against the number 1 defense in football in the John Harbaugh Chargers defense. So I'm going to go with the defense. Yes, it's a tall task to shut down Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, but going up against the number 1 defense, I see them getting a bunch of sacks. I see them dominating that offensive line. They get 5 sacks on Burrow. Since he's been in Cincinnati, that offensive line ain't been great anyway, and you're playing against a number 1 defense, I feel like the Chargers get the upper hand, and that defense will be the X factor for sure. Bengals are coming off of a physical, tough loss against a divisional opponent in the Ravens, and now they got to go play against a real physical, tough defense in the Chargers. So I'm going with that defense. Then on Monday night, the last game we'll do for our X factors for Week 11, Texans go to Dallas Cowboys, stay in the state, an interstate rivalry, if you want to call it that. I got Joe Mixon going to work on the Cowboys. All right. The Cowboys are in shambles. All of the players want to have sound bites and talk on TV and talk about the coach. And they can't win a game at home. And the Texans are probably pissed off that they lost that game to the Lions at home. So how do you remedy that? You go play against a Dallas Cowboy team and you punish them. All right. That's exactly what I think the Texans will do. And how do you punish a team? You impose your will on them by running the ball down their throat. I think Joe Mixon has a big game. I think he gets a lot of carries. And I think they just push the ball down the Cowboys' throat. And I just think they take them out of the game. They got a quarterback. I don't know who's starting. Cooper Rush may get the start. Trey Lance, I don't think they have a chance in hell to win this game. And I feel like the Texans are just going to take out any frustration they have on this next opponent. It just so happens to be the Dallas Cowboys. Again, the way to neutralize a defensive line or a pass rush, Micah Parsons, is to run the ball. And I think they just dominate the line of scrimmage and get Joe Mixon the ball. I see Joe Mixon with two total touchdowns and 100 yards total as well. He's a pass threat. He's a running threat as well. So I see him. He reminds me a lot of Marshall Faulk. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Famer or great like Marshall Faulk. The way he's utilized in an offense, he can catch the ball out the backfield. He's a big running back, physical running back. So I see 2 touchdowns in total, 100 total yards for Joe Mixon. All right. So those are my X factors for this week in Week 11. All right. We got Devontae Smith up against the Commanders, who aren't that great in the secondary. Then we got Derrick Henry against the Steelers. This is the reason they brought him there. I feel like he is the separator in this game if the Ravens want to win. Chiefs, Bills, same old same. Josh Allen does what he does against them. Even though their defense is good, I don't think it matters. Josh Allen is Josh Allen against the Chiefs. And then Bengals, Chargers defense. They show why they're the number 1 defense in the league. And they get to Joe Burrow multiple times. Then Joe Mixon punishes the Cowboys. Those are my 5 X factors for Week 11. Let me know what y'all think. Go ahead and pick your X factors for the week. You can comment on YouTube or Rumble. Let me know what you think. Or if you want to go on social media when we get the reels out this weekend. And let me know If you think those X factors are good, tell me why. Tell me why you dislike them. Or if you have an X factor of your own in those games, be sure to tap in. All right. Before we get up out of here, as always, we got to hit y'all with that 2-minute warning. And before we go, we're going to talk about not waiting for anybody, okay? Don't wait for anybody, and look at it this way. A year from now, whatever it is that you've been planning on doing or thinking about doing, a year from now, you're going to wish you started today. So don't wait for anybody. If you want to do something, go attack it right now. Put together the plan and execute. All right. Personal experience. I'm looking to start a sports league, an X Factor sports league, a basketball league, right? And then eventually parlay that into a flag football league. And then eventually like a softball league. So different seasons, different sports. I put the plan already together, but I did it last year. Now here I am talking about, damn, I should have got it started, right? So I shouldn't have waited. But now I'm locked in. I know exactly what I want to do, how I want to formulate it, and that'll be coming soon. But we're going to get together this sports league. So I say all that to say, from personal experience, don't wait on anybody, okay? Whatever it is needs to be figured out. Take the time to figure it out if that's what you need to move forward. But if you sit and wait and sit idle, the idea will either fade away or other obstacles are going to get in front of them. So do what you need to do to advance your ideas into actionable items and move forward. So don't wait on anybody, okay? This is Jay Mondaine of the X Factor Sports Podcast. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. As always, you can catch us on YouTube and Rumble. Also, if you ever want to get any of the gear, you can always scan the QR code below, or you can hit me up on any of the social media platforms. Let me know your size, any shirt colors. Also, we can get hats, and you can check us out all the time, X Factor Sports Podcast, every Wednesday. And for all my fans here locally, we are going to have another live show of the X Factor Sports Podcast. Our season finale is January 8th. It will be live at Bogey's Windy City Pub. I will have all the information up for you guys next week, so be sure to accept the invite, RSVP. Seats fill up real fast. We had a great turnout in season 4. It's going to be even bigger for the season 6 finale. The X Factor Sports Podcast will be doing a live episode in front of a live audience, January 8th, 2025. So be sure to get the invite, accept the invite, and show up and show out. We will have shirts there. We will have merchandise, hoodies, sweatshirts, everything will be there for you guys to tap in. We're taking photos. We're doing everything. It's going to be a great show. All right. So I want to thank y'all for tuning in tonight to the X Factor Sports Podcast. Again, this is Jay Mondaine signing out. Season 6, episode 4. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. Tell everybody to tap into the show. We are out of here. Peace.